This Shabbat, especially in this country, is traditionally associated with mental health awareness. And I'm absolutely delighted and thrilled that I can welcome to our community Ben Fromson, who is our new Chesed manager, coordinator, and I'm sure he will be also very delighted to get to know all of you. And so I think we joined both occasions having been in our community, which is absolutely great, and also marking Mental Health Awareness Shabbat, and therefore Ben will be delivering the drasha for us.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's a pleasure to be in my first service at Westminster Synagogue. As you heard, my name is Ben, and I'm the new Community Wellbeing Manager, taking on the mantle from Deneen. Before coming here, I spent 4 years as a mental health worker at Jami, the flagship mental health charity for Anglo Jewry. I promise you I did leave my role, yet I'm here to talk to you about Jami Mental Health Shabbat, a time to raise the profile of mental distress and illness within the Jewish community. Part of my role here is to oversee the shul's welfare needs regarding mental health as well as physical health. It is also to develop the synagogue's volunteer network to make it a communal effort to meet these needs. Therefore, I want to take the Shabbat as an opportunity to invite thought on how we can continue on the never-ending journey to facilitate mental well-being amongst members and the place for mutual support in achieving progress. Since we are here in shul, it seems right to take a moment to turn to the Torah. In my time now, I hope to show how the Torah itself includes experiences that we now call depression, and that it can be used to help us reflect on ways we can support those who struggle with it. This week's Torah portion, as you heard, is Parshat Bo. We're still towards the beginning of the book of Exodus. The Israelites are in Egypt, and the final plagues are being visited upon Pharaoh and the Egyptians, including the plague of darkness. Apart from the constraints of the communal calendar, and there are many, Jami picked Mental Health Shabbat to coincide with the portion because of the analogy between depression and the plague of darkness, and the light still visited upon Israel. In the annual cycle of the Torah reading, we read the following. God said to Moses, "Hold out your arm towards the sky, that there may be darkness upon the land of Egypt, a darkness that can be touched." Moses held out his arm towards the sky, and thick darkness descended upon all the land of Egypt for 3 days. People could not see one another, and for 3 days no one could get up from where he was. But all the Israelites enjoyed light in their dwellings. Firstly, the darkness is described as one that can be touched. Vayamesh choshech. The Sforno, an Italian commentator, notes that usually we describe darkness in terms of the absence of light, but the darkness described here is like a separate entity. He says that it was a darkness felt, which no light could banish. While happiness often banishes sadness, one cannot lighten up out of the felt darkness of depression. It is an entity separate to the typical range of emotions. Secondly, the darkness, as is described here, is debilitating. We're told that no one could get up from where he was. V'lo kamu ish mitachtav. Nachmanides, the medieval commentator from Catalan, says that this is because the darkness was thick. These productive Egyptians used to powering the empire are left catatonic. Similarly, people in a depressive episode describe the effort of moving as like walking through treacle. And thirdly, the darkness produces tremendous isolation, for the people could not see one another. Lo ra'u ish et achiv. Various Hasidic commentaries interpret this psychologically. The darkness left them so immersed in self-criticism that relating deeply to others became a challenge. It may be powerful enough to see those suffering from depression and for those to feel seen by the Torah, those people to feel seen by the Torah. As someone who used to struggle with depression deeply and still has his moments, I was so moved to see commentators from over the centuries describing some of what I felt. But does the Torah have anything to say about what our communities might do to address this darkness? I'd like to give a yes to that question with caveats. My answer requires a Hasidic lens on the Torah, viewing it as an internal psychological drama. The Hasidim place great importance on the Hebrew name for Egypt, Mitzrayim. It comes from the root mitzar, a constriction or a narrow strait, which is used elsewhere in the Torah to describe the sort of psychological constriction that we feel when in distress. With this view of Egypt in mind, the Chassid Reb Nosson of Breslov says, In each person and in each time, there can be found a residue of Mitzrayim. So in a Hasidic worldview, our minds might contain both the experiences of the Egyptians and the Israelites. With this in mind, we can learn from the final phrase of my quoted passage, Ulachol b'nei Yisrael haya or b'moshvotam, but all the Israelites enjoyed the light in their dwellings. The Israelite in us, which keeps the thick darkness at bay, dwells with others. The Hebrew here for dwellings is a version of the word moshav, a cooperative. And there were many moshavs at the beginning of the state of Israel, and there are still some today. Don't worry, I'm not recommending you all set up a shared housing cooperative. Rather, the Torah might be suggesting that certain forms of communal cooperation can alleviate some mental plagues. For some, when they are experiencing such a darkness, it helps for another community member from the Westminster Synagogue Moshav to just be there with them. If they are struggling to get out, it can make a world of difference to have a low-stakes arrangement to go for a walk with someone. If a member is steeped in self-criticism and has lost perspective because they've internalized the darkness of Mitzrayim, it helps to have a community to go to where they might reconnect with their self-worth. By the way, in my talk over lunch today for the Oneg, I hope to raise the question of whether excessively organizing society around rewarding individual talent ends up contributing to this darkness. So please, you're all welcome to come along. Of course, I need to make some important caveats to this teaching. Treatment for depression is not one size fits all, and I don't recommend anyone suffering to go to Jewish texts as their first port of call. Also, many may feel unnerved by the optimism of the text and the suggested message. To this, I want to point out that the Torah often talks in the mode of aspiration to such a degree that it seems to affirm falsehoods. For example, in Jewish liturgy, we say that God feeds the whole world, even though it has always been clear to all that he doesn't, at least not yet. Similarly, there was no exodus from the straits of mental illness for all, not for Israel and not for humanity. But just as imagining a world where God provides food for the whole world can help us contend with the problems of the day, imagining one where God releases us all from Mitzrayim can help us contend with the mental health epidemic of the day. I hope that I leave you thinking about how you can contribute to the various cooperative communities, the moshavs of the world, to lessen the darkness for yourself and others, and in relation to the Westminster community, if you wish to help your fellow Israelites out of such straits and develop the volunteer network, please be in touch. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you, Ben. Wonderful, for your wonderful sermon.